The 1950 FIFA World Cup was the fourth edition of the FIFA World Cup, the quadrennial international football championship for senior men's national teams, and held in Brazil from June 24 to July 16, 1950. It was the first World Cup tournament in over 12 years, as the 1942 and 1946 World Cups were cancelled due to World War II. Italy, the two-time defending champions, were eliminated in the first round for the first time in history. Uruguay, who had won the inaugural competition in 1930, defeated the host nation, Brazil, in the deciding match of the 4-team group of the final round. This was the only tournament not decided by a one-match final. It was also the inaugural tournament where the trophy was referred to as the Jules Rimet Cup, to mark the 25th anniversary of Jules Rimet's presidency of FIFA. Because of World War II, the World Cup had not been staged since 1938. The planned World Cups of 1942 and 1946 were both cancelled. After the war, FIFA were keen to resurrect the competition as soon as possible, and they began making plans for a World Cup tournament to take place. In the aftermath of the war, much of Europe lay in ruins. As a result, FIFA had difficulties finding a country interested in hosting the event, since many governments believed that their scarce resources ought to be devoted to more urgent priorities than a sporting tournament. The World Cup was at risk of not being held for sheer lack of interest from the international community, until Brazil presented a bid at the 1946 FIFA Congress, offering to host the event on condition that the tournament take place in 1950 rather than the originally proposed year of 1949. Brazil and Germany had been the leading bidders to host the cancelled 1942 World Cup. Since both the 1934 and 1938 tournaments had been held in Europe, football historians generally agree that the 1942 event would most likely have been awarded to a South American host country. Brazil's new bid was very similar to the mooted 1942 bid and was quickly accepted. A combined Great Britain team had recently beaten the rest of Europe 6-1 in an exhibition match, and England went into the competition as one of the favourites. However, they went crashing out after a shock 1-0 defeat by the United States and a 1-0 defeat by Spain. Italy, the defending champions, lost their unbeaten record at the World Cup finals with a 3-2 defeat by Sweden in its opening match and failed to progress to the second round. The final match in Group 1 between Switzerland and Mexico was the second time a national team did not play in their own kit, the first being 1934 match between Austria and Germany when both teams arrived with white kits, and the Austrians borrowed blue kits from club side Napoli. Both teams arrived with only their red kits, so the Brazilian Football Confederation tossed a coin, with Mexico thus earning the right to play in their own kit, a right they waived as a friendly gesture, allowing the Swiss to wear their own kit while Mexico changed. The local team that lent their shirts was Esporte Clube Cruzeiro from Porto Alegre. The shirts had vertical blue and white stripes. The final group stage involved the teams that had won their groups, Brazil, Spain, Sweden and 1930 FIFA World Cup champions Uruguay, who were making their first World Cup appearance since winning the inaugural tournament. The World Cup winner would be the team that finished on top of this group. The final Group 6 matches were shared between Rio de Janeiro and São Paulo. Brazil played all its final group matches at the Estádio do Maracanã in Rio, while the games that did not involve the host nation were played in São Paulo. Brazil won their first two matches with a 7-1 thrashing of Sweden and 6-1 rout of Spain, putting them on top of the group with one game left to play against Uruguay, in second and only a point behind. Brazil had scored 23 goals in the tournament and only conceded 4, and so were strong favourites. The two teams had played 3 matches against each other in the Copa Rio Branco, played in Brazil 2 months previously, with one match won by Uruguay 4-3 and 2 by Brazil, 2-1 and 1-0, who won the tournament. Thus the difference in quality between the teams was not excessive. Unlike Spain and Sweden, the Uruguayans were used to the challenges in the big South American stadiums. On July 16, before a huge home crowd of 199,954, some estimated as 205,000, in the Estádio do Maracanã, the host nation only had to draw against Uruguay and the trophy would be theirs. After such crushing victories over Spain and Sweden, it looked certain they would take the title, and the home nation duly went ahead in the second minute of the second half, thanks to a goal from Friaca. However, Uruguay equalized and then, with just over 11 minutes left to play, went ahead 2-1 when Alcides Guja squeaked a goal past Moser Barbosa, so Uruguay was crowned World Cup champions for a second time. This stunning defeat surprised Brazil to the point of shock and is known as the Maracanazo, Maracana blow. The average attendance of nearly 61,000 per game, aided greatly by 8 matches, including 5 featuring hosts Brazil, held in the newly built Maracana, set a record that would not be broken until 1994. Not counting the Maracana matches, the average attendance was a still impressive 37,500, however, the only venues that saw crowds comparable to or greater than those in recent World Cups were the Maracana and São Paulo. Other venues saw considerably smaller crowds. Antonio Carbajal from Mexico was the last living player from this World Cup. He died in